So I always say, if everyone could just keep it real with each other, we could make dating and relationships so much better. Unfortunately, too many people are engaging in game playing and following what I consider to be very bad advice, right? Not with ill intent, but being misguided into doing things that cause more harm than good. All right. And a lot of people don't understand how the approach they are taking or what they've been taught to be acceptable things to do when dating someone is actually shooting themselves in the foot. Now, of course, we know men are out here playing games, but women are playing games too, okay? And today's video, because I'm speaking to you, and this is on my channel for women, we're going to talk about the ways you should not test a man. All right. So when we say test a man, let's face it, some of you have, whether it be mothers, aunts, friends, who might tell you, well, you should do this, you should try this, don't do this, whatever, to get a reaction out of him or to make sure he's serious. And again, that can lead to a lot of problems. So let's get to it and listen to this video with a very open mind, okay? Because some of you might be triggered because I'm going to end up mentioning some things that you probably feel very passionate about and have done or are currently doing, and you're going to have to reevaluate your behavior, okay? So with that said, one of the first things you should not do to test a man is withholding communication, okay? Now, there's so many ways, so many layers to this withholding communication. I'm going to try to run through a few of them, all right? But let's start off with the simple, you meet a man, you guys exchange numbers, okay? First, there's the whole concern of, well, don't reach out to him first, all right? And to me, I understand the desire to want to allow that man to basically take the initiative to reach out and make contact. I get that, right? And if you just genuinely are living your life, you've been busy, you haven't had a moment to sit down and actually make contact, then cool. Like if in the natural flow of things, you're not hitting them up first, cool, not a problem. But when you're doing it in a way that holds back your desire to reach out or to go against who you are, this is a problem. And it's only a problem not because of that moment, that initial moment of communication, but because we're setting the stage of engaging in what I believe is unhealthy behavior. Okay? I don't want you to get into that habit of trying to be calculated and, wow, let me wait. Let me not hit him up now. Let me give it a few days. Like, none of that is necessary. Just go with your genuine flow. Be your authentic self. And if you're a woman who likes to get on the phone, likes to reach out, doesn't have a problem doing it, then do that, right? As long as that's who you are. But if you did decide to wait, is it the worst thing in the world? No. I'm not going to stress too much that first reach out. However, let's get to a different layer of this. Let's say you guys are already talking, right? And let's say he's been hitting you up in the morning. Good morning. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You guys have your conversations, right? And then let's say sometimes you'll hit him up in the afternoon. And then you're like, okay, well, let me just stop reaching out to him and see if he reaches out to me. Now, again, I understand the idea of, well, if he don't bother to reach out, then that's just showing he's not that serious. He's not that interested. I can understand that, right? However, what I know in this world that we live in, here's the thing that I think people aren't taking into consideration. We live in a very different time, all right? And the time that we're living in is filled with a lot more distractions, as well as there's been a lot more years of trauma that have piled up in people's lives. Like, I feel like the trauma is even more now because people are so overexposed. All right. And they're even if they're not going through very specific situations themselves, they are witnessing it, whether that's through friends, family, but now through social media, through TV. And as much as we can tell people, oh, everything you see on social media is fake, which a lot of it, majority of it is, people still fall for it. All right. And I know how much that little, just to give a small example, and none of this is making it okay. And I'm not trying to make any excuses for people who allow these things to get the best of them. I'm just acknowledging the fact that it happens. It could be you. You could be talking to a man, and let's say you come and you already had, you've been through some stuff before, some disappointments. So you got your guard up a little bit. And then you come across a TikTok of a woman giving her story of a man who just played her. And it sounds like let's say she met him online and you met this guy online. Like, it might trigger something in you that might make you be like, oh, well, let me sit back and wait to see what happens. And it's like, well, you just allowed a stranger situation to contaminate your thinking. And this is happening to a lot more people. But again, because I said the world today is filled with distractions as well, it is possible where people get sidetracked, and it's possible people have stuff going on. And so all that to say, it goes back to the point I was making in the first layer of this. You always should stay true to who you are, all right? And not get caught up in game playing. Because the minute you do, you're throwing things off and you don't know what fears and concerns that he has, all right? Now, again, similar to that initial one about that first reach out, I can give some leeway. And even with this one, I give a little leeway because, again, it is understandable for us to say, well, at some point I would think if he's interested, he's going to reach out, right? But I'm going to go another layer, one more. And I've seen this happen where you could be talking to a man and let's say during this time, he was consistently on a day-by-day basis reaching out to you. And let's just say he texts you or he reach out and you're like, you know what? I'm not going to respond right away. I'm going to wait. And maybe I'm going to wait to see if he hits me up again, right? And now day passes and he hasn't followed up with a second text or a call to check on you. Third day and he's not reaching out. Now, in your mind, you might say, well, Stefan, what's wrong with that? That just exposed he's not serious. But hold on. Again, one, at the foundation of this, don't play games. Don't test men in this way. But here's something that I think a lot of women don't consider. You have to also understand the man this may sound bad, but I'm keeping it real with y'all. The quality of man that you are dealing with in certain times. And what I mean by that is this. So like, there was a TikTok. I always wish I could remember who says it because I want to give them credit, but I can't remember. But it was a TikTok where somebody said a lot of women end up with a broke man because their love language is quality time. Let me say that one more time. A lot of women end up with a broke man because her love language is quality time. So essentially, that broke man who may have less going on in his life is much more available to give you attention and his energy, right? He ain't got nothing else going on, okay? So he can follow up and hit you up many times. If you don't call him right back, he'll hit you up again. Like, he can do all that, right? Not to mention, because he's a broke man and maybe therefore he has less options, right? He knows he's going to put in an extra amount of effort to win you over, because if he can't get you, like, he has to do what he can do because he doesn't have it like that to just say, all right, I'll move on to the next person, right? However, if you are dealing with what you would deem a quality, desirable man, a man who, you got to be real with yourself, is capable of getting other quality, desirable women, you can't be playing that game with him. There's a lesser chance of him entertaining or moving past certain things. So I can think of a guy I know where if he hits you up and you don't hit him back, he's not following up. Like, he's not sending a second text. He's not calling you. It's like, because he already views it as you're playing games now. If you can't hit him back, that's it. He moves on. And for him, it's not a stress to him because, all right, well, there's other people who he can entertain, right? And I think sometimes women, they again, listening to other people, getting advice online, they get caught up in these little tricks and game playing, and they don't recognize you. You got to recognize who you playing with. And sometimes that's a very, very bad move, right? So again, regardless, I don't care if he's a broke man, successful man, desirable man, whatever, don't play games. Don't withhold communication. Be yourself. There's more we can talk about this, but let's get on to the next point. All right. So here's another way you should not test a man. And that is by using other men to make him jealous. Okay. So it reminds me one time I had a client and she told me she had a dating coach who was a woman. I don't know who it was, so don't ask me no names. And even if I knew who it was, I wouldn't tell you. but anyways, this dating coach, when she met him, there was this guy that the client liked and was flirting with, right? And I can't remember if there was already plans to hang out, but either way, there was some flirting going on back and forth. And what the dating coach told her to do was, oh, next time you guys talk, or he asks you, how's everything going? Tell him how you've been going on different dates with different men and all this stuff because men want to see that, you know, other men want you. And before I even was told what the outcome was, I was like, hell no, like that was not the right move. But lo and behold, she did it. It backfired. He didn't pursue any further and the whole thing kind of fell apart. Okay. And so one, let me say this, because you might hear this on the internet. I do believe in the idea that, and some of you might agree, some of you might disagree, that the whole thing of seeing someone being desired by others can make them more desirable. I do think that it is more powerful for a man, meaning if a man is walking around with a beautiful, desirable woman or a woman that other women look up to or whatever, that raises his stock automatically, okay? And he's going to be able to have more people coming after him. You may not be the type of woman that does that, but trust, there are plenty others. But on the flip side, a woman being seen with other desirable men doesn't necessarily make her more desirable. And a man hearing you trying to flaunt in a man's face that you out here dating this one, that one, that one, it can go completely left as far as how he views that. There are some men who will view it as they don't want to jump into that competition. They're not trying to compete with other people. There are some men who will I will say wrongfully or unfairly view a woman as a hoe because she's dating with all these different guys, right? There's a lot of different perceptions, but trust and believe it doesn't typically add up to that man wanting you more. Now, there's a difference between a woman who is very desired by other men versus a woman who is entertaining a bunch of men. Okay? So yes, a man knowing that all these other men want you and think you're hot and all this stuff, oh, there's lots of men who love that and will definitely be even more intrigued and want to pursue you more. But once it turns into, oh, she entertains a bunch of dudes. No. Okay? So with that said, any trick or game or test that involves you flaunting a bunch of other men is typically, in most cases, going to backfire. And, if there's a scenario where it actually worked, there's a very strong chance that it would work in the sense of he will want to sleep with you so that he can say, I conquered this, I beat the other men out, but it won't establish a healthy foundation long term. All right? Now, let's just say it's not a bunch of other men. Let's just say it's, trying to use one man to get him jealous. That's still very dangerous Because here's the thing you gotta understand. One thing I do not like seeing, whether it's men or women on the internet do, is play games with each other that, like, you ever see on a TikTok or a reel where it's a cheating prank. They're playing like they were cheating on their partner. To me, that's the craziest stuff. And the reason why I always think it's crazy, unless it was completely scripted from the beginning, is you are planting a seed of doubt and distrust in the other person. Even though it was a prank, even though it was a joke, even if it was a moment of you just trying to make them jealous, again, does it always turn into that bad of a situation? No, but you're taking a chance, and again, you're planting a seed to where now, even though the seed may not grow at that moment, as you guys go, if you guys move further along with each other, maybe even get married, whatever, now little things could start to water that seed to where it grows and now it turns into a whole big problem. Okay? So to me, it's never good or healthy to play any games involving using someone else to make them jealous. Now, again, none of that means you're not allowed to date other people if you are dating multiple people while you're single. If you're single, you're free to do as you please. And if your philosophy is I'm out here and I'm entertaining, different options, again, if you're being true to yourself, you're being honest about it, nothing wrong with it. But when you're using it for essentially manipulation, jealousy, things of that nature to get a reaction out of somebody, you're playing a very dangerous game. All right, so let's keep this thing going. And another big way you should not ever test a man at any stage of the relationship is by weaponizing sex. Okay? Now let's start with the very beginning. Now, again, we all know, for those who are believers, it's all, the right way to do things is wait till marriage, but I always acknowledge that not everybody's going to wait. Not everyone has waited. We still got to talk about these things because they still happen, right? So I have one story where I had a good friend, guy friend, and he goes out with this woman, and on the first night, they end up being intimate, okay? And he was actually digging her. He was actually feeling her. He liked her, and the intimacy on the first night in his scenario did not disqualify her. All right. And that's important to understand once I tell you the rest of the story. However, after having intimacy that night, they continue to talk. They go on another date. And on the second date, she says to him, you know what? I actually want to be celibate. And so basically we got to backtrack. Like, I know we were intimate night one, but we got to cut that off going forward and it's just talk to each other. And that completely pissed him off. Now listen, if as a woman, you went down that path and you genuinely changed your mind, cool. All right. Now, the way he presented it to me, he felt like she did this on purpose. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I do know there have been instances in this world where women have weaponized sex in that way. Weaponized it in the sense of, I'm going to give you a taste, and I'm going to take it back. All right? I'm going to reel you in, and then I'm going to take it back. All right? And I'm going to dangle this carrot in front of you. And sometimes the guy will stick around. But for him, he was mad. He was not upset. He didn't view her less than because she had the sex. He would have been more flexible if they just did not have it from the beginning. But he felt like, you're going to do this to make, again, reel me in and now say it's off the table. And it didn't sit well with him. Now, let me just say, he wasn't a believer like that. So of course, maybe that would have made him a little bit more flexible even in that scenario. But that's not the point. The point is, if it was being weaponized, and that's just one of the ways that sometimes it is weaponized, right? Again, you're causing problems, because the reality is that in a scenario where you're dating someone and you allow yourself to be intimate with them, it's tough to then go backwards. All right. For that guy, it's tough to now go from, we crossed this line and now we're not. Not saying it can't be had, not saying that there aren't men who will be like, all right, cool, if they feel like you're genuine. But I do think if they sense that there's any game playing, that will piss off a lot of dudes. All right. Now that's just one version of it. Other versions of weaponizing the sex, of course, is withholding it because the man, you're trying to get something out of him. All right. So you're just like, all right, well, no, I don't feel like he's providing for me in a certain way, so I'm going to withhold it. Again, I want to keep making sure I drive home the point. When you are genuinely at a place where you are waiting, you're not genuinely comfortable, whatever the case may be, all of that is fine. It's only a problem when this is an intentional manipulation. All right. And you know what you're doing. You got to be real with yourself. Some of you might say, I would never do that. Cool. If you're someone that would never do it, awesome. But there are women who do. All right. So it may be weaponized in the dating phase to get more out of the guy. Then, of course, I'm sure we've all heard of the weaponization of sex within marriage. Okay. And again, withholding it because you're upset, withholding it because you feel like he's not doing something, whatever the case may be. And the reason why using sex as a weapon is so damaging is because I really feel like we're not having honest enough conversations and factually based conversations when it comes to the desires of sex, libido, how men and women are wired, all these things. And I think women just think like sometimes sex for men is just a hobby, and it's like, well, why can't you just give up your hobby for a little while? And it's like, wait a minute, it's a literal urge. Like this goes deeper. It is ingrained in the biology of a man. And depending on where a man is can dictate, or how he is wired can dictate how strong that urge or that desire is. Just one example, if a man has super low testosterone and he's not healthy, even if he's young, because there are young men right now in their 20s, erectile dysfunction, low testosterone, right? So they're going to have low libido. So for that man, if he's in that stage or season of life or going through that, well, yeah, he may have a much easier time managing the urges, being okay with not engaging in it, or even if it's weaponized against him, he's not even viewing it. It doesn't frustrate him at the same level. Versus, let's say, a man who is healthy, all systems are go, and he naturally has a higher sexual energy as it is. Well, that guy, you weaponize sex or withhold sex from him. It's frustration. It can create resentment. It can have a very, very damaging effect. But here's the other thing. It creates a distrust. Like and let's focus on marriage for a second. It's like he can't rely on his wife to help him with this desire that he has, which is a piece of why we get married. Some people may disagree with that, but I think you can go in scripture and find supporting scripture for that. That's part of the reason to get married, is to have our desires met. So if someone's going to withhold that, and again, we're not talking about you're going through. I'll give you an example, because I was going to say like a medical issue. I had a couple one time, they were married at this point, I want to say 7 years. And the woman, she may have had a cyst in her uterus or something happened. Whatever happened, the doctor said she could not have sex for the next 6 to 7 months. Nothing. Okay? And so the husband, he rolled with it. He was very accommodating. He was understanding. He was there for her in every way that she needed him to be. All right? And he accepted no sex for the next 7 months. After the 7 months, everything gets cleared up. She goes back to the doctor. Not only does the doctor clear her to have sex, the doctor said you actually should start having sex. I guess it would be good for her uterus. I don't know what the medical explanation was, but he was like, no, you actually should do it now. It would be good for you. You need it. And guess what happened? She still ain't have sex with her husband. So now that 7 months where he was considerate, compassionate, patient, all these things started to quickly turn into resentment, frustration, anger, because it's like, yo, it's one thing that you can't. You just generally, you're unable. It's another thing when you're able and you're choosing not to. And again, it is being weaponized or withheld or whatever the case may be, however you want to frame it. And that creates tons of problems. Okay. Now I understand there's many factors that can go into a woman's sexual receptiveness towards her partner. I understand it's not just a physical thing. I get that. But at the foundation of it, we at least have to have the mentality of not withholding and weaponizing and understanding how much that can cause a problem. All right, so we got a couple more to go. Now, this next one, I think many of you are going to say this doesn't apply to you. But we're going to throw it out there because maybe it will. And it's still something that needs to be talked about. And the next thing you should never do to test a man is to make up fake issues to be able to ask him for money. All right, what do I mean? So some of you may be dating a guy, in a relationship with a guy, and let's say, you've never really been one to ask for money or request it, right? And he maybe doesn't necessarily go out of his way to give it. Not that he doesn't pay for dates and stuff like that, but he doesn't go out of his way. And so you, in wanting to see if he'll give you money or something, you create like, my car needs a new engine. I don't know, whatever. Like you come up with something, right? Something bad that happened, because it's easier to ask for it when you can give a reason like that versus, can I just have some money because I just want to have some money or go shopping or something like that. And doing it one time will not cause anything crazy, but if that becomes a repeated behavior, that can become a big problem. Now, put a pin in that for a second. I want to rewind. Let's say this is in the very beginning. Let's say this is in the dating phase. Now, again, I'm sure many of you will say you've never done this, or you don't do this, you would never do this. Cool. But let me just educate you because it happens, right? Where a woman might meet a man, they start dating, and already she's saying, oh my God, I have to pay this bill, or oh my gosh, this, whatever. And here's the reason why I'm highlighting this issue, because what some women don't understand is, if your goal is to get money out of a man or to see if he's a provider in that way, you're better off just requesting it than to make up a dire situation. Because if you constantly make up dire situations, it starts to look like you got issues. Like essentially, if it's always like, well, damn, this girl always got a flat tire. She always has this problem. That becomes stressful even to a man who doesn't mind providing and will give it to you. It just seems like problems are attached to you somehow. Okay. So it actually can backfire on you and how he perceives you. And now he starts to drift apart from you because now he feels like there's always something wrong. You feel me? Like if it feels like there's always something wrong with you that you need help with, and let it be known, this could actually be also the case when it comes to emotionally. If every time you talk to someone, they're always going through something emotionally, there comes a point where it can start to become very draining. Okay. And that can repel someone. Even if they care about you, even if they want to be there for you, there comes a point where it's like, oh my gosh, when does this stop? Right? Now, there's some scenarios where it's a lot more understandable when it's a genuine thing. Let's say somebody passed away. But you know what? Even with that, I want to give an example real quick. I had a couple one time, they were married, and man, I'm forgetting the detail of who the person was, but I want to say maybe it was the wife's father. There was someone who passed away previously, or her son in a car crash passed away. And I want to say this might have been like 7 years later. And she was still grieving. She was still dealing with it. But I think because of the way that she was still dealing with it, sometimes it would still like become a conflict between her and her man, her husband, because it's like, to him, his approach to things is like, all right, yeah, we understand it's an unfortunate thing. He wants to be there for her. He wants to support her, all these things. But there comes a point where it starts to become like, okay, because there's nothing I can do. He can't change nothing. He can't fix nothing. And it's almost like that energy is being thrown on the relationship constantly. Okay. Now that might sound insensitive on the surface, but understand that this is why we have to make sure we go through a process of release and healing. None of us are going to be perfect. And when we're talking about something as serious as that, yeah, it may take a long time, for it to really finally get to a place where there's more peace about it, right? If ever, for some people. But if we don't understand the need to at least release as much as we possibly can, then we may not understand how much of a burden we're not just putting on ourselves, but the people around us who we're constantly looking to hold us up in those moments. Okay. But going back to the money thing, yeah, if it's always some kind of issue that you got to use, it just looks bad. You're better off just asking, seeing if that's the type of, energy that he's bringing to the table, and then if you guys are good, and take it from there. All right. And one more important thing you should not do to test a man is giving a fake ultimatum. All right. Now, what do I mean by fake ultimatum? Bottom line is, what does it mean what you say? Say what you mean and mean what you say. I believe that's the proper term or quote, whatever. You get it. All right. You got to be able to back up your words. And unfortunately, I've seen it so many times where a woman could be, whether it be dating a man, boyfriend, girlfriend, marriage, whatever, is dealing with a man. And let's just say it's like, oh, well, if you don't do this, I'm gone. Right? Or if you do this one more time, I'm out of here. And he does it again and you're still there. He does it again, you're still there. He does it again, you're still there. There comes a point where now he doesn't take your word serious no more. Okay? And you just look like you're just having one of your moments. She'll get over it and then we'll be back to normal. And it's one thing when we're talking about a scenario where you're in a good, healthy relationship, a mistake has been made. Maybe in that moment, you kind of lost control and you said some things, but when you thought about it, you're like, you know what, this is a good man, this is a good relationship. I'm not going to throw everything away for that. That's one thing. But let's be real. There's a lot of fake ultimatums being given in relationships that the woman doesn't even belong in to begin with. Dealing with a man who should have been gone a long time ago. And the fake ultimatum only makes it worse because he's already behaving in unhealthy ways. Things are already toxic. And now all you're showing yourself to be is someone who just is talking just for the sake of talking, right? He doesn't take it serious. He doesn't have a level of respect for it. So you got to make sure, and again, I know sometimes the moment gets the best of you, but don't say things that you're not going to back up. And if you say it, back it up. Now, caveat, because some of y'all might say, I'm going to kill you if you do X, Y, Z. I don't need you to back that up. All right. There's some things we don't need to show physical proof of. Okay. However, things like this is unacceptable. I'm leaving. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Be mindful of that, but also ask yourself, if I have to keep saying this and it's not being correct, why am I still here? And it goes back to, you got to make sure you do your healing. You got to make sure you strengthen yourself in a way that allows you to move in the ways that is best for you, right? And that's why I'm going to always tell y'all, encourage y'all to talk to God. Let God lead you in every situation. Learn how to pray. Learn how to hear God in your spirit while you are praying, right? And that will help at least increase the chances of you making the right decisions and not staying in places that you don't belong. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on 7 things a man needs more than sex to fall deeply for you. And you may view it as, well, I'm just being real. I'm just being honest. And it's like, okay, you can be honest and real, but you can still speak with love.